Let's get more on this then from John Kavulich, who's a political commentator and joins us live now from New York. John, thank you for your time. Just tell us, or give us a little bit of your insight into the latest attacks that we've seen from Ukraine. They've targeted Russia's largest online retailer, Wildberries, drone attack as well, killing holidayers on a beach off the Black Sea. Is there a strategic shift here, do you think, particularly the attack on the beach there?
The attack on the beach, I struggle to believe that that was deliberate. The Ukrainian government has absolutely become more comfortable with casualties in Russia. For the first, basically, early 5 years of this war, of this second stage of this war, they were doing everything possible to avoid killing civilians and wounding civilians in Russia, primarily because of the asymmetrical response by the Russians. That if the Ukrainians were to kill Russians, the Russians are going to send missiles, rockets, and drones, and they're going to kill a lot more Ukrainians in response. So there was always this elasticity issue. But the Ukrainians are more comfortable now, and they are increasingly hitting not only infrastructure, but infrastructure where it's likely to have civilians, or locations where there are civilians, whether airports, whether it be apartment complexes. But still, the number of Russians killed and wounded is far below what has been happening in Ukraine. But there is a comfort level, and I think President Zelensky and his team believe that they have the support from outside of Ukraine, whereas they wouldn't have had it 2, 3, 4 years ago. And now it's sort of a tit for tat. You kill one of ours, we're going to kill one of yours. And at some point, President Putin and President Zelensky are going to reach the number where they each say independently, enough of our people have died. Now we need to make a deal.
And that leads to the next question, really, because in many ways, the war for Russians has been a long way away. If it now starts increasingly to reach their doorsteps and they feel the pinch in a number of different ways, what impact will that have on the Kremlin's approach? And you mentioned there the possibility of Zelensky and Putin saying enough's enough. How much needs to happen before that meeting potentially occurs?
Yeah, that is both the unknown, but worse than being unknown, the duration is unknown. And that means, are there a series of moments? Are there a series of steps? Or is there a list that when each of them reach the end of the list, then it's time to talk? The problem is neither one's lists match up with the other one. They have some commonalities, people dying, a certain amount of infrastructure, damage the economy, political instability, but they keep adding stuff, and that's going to make moving toward the discussion phase challenging. Now, I spend a lot of time in Russia, and I've done so the last 5 years, and way before that as well. I've been in Belgorod, I've been in Kursk, I've been in St. Petersburg in June when the Ukrainians hit that oil storage facility right when the SPIEF, the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, was happening. That's President Putin's annual, basically, a middle finger to the world during the last 5 years, say, look at all the people, I'm here, look at how this is played out. And then the Ukrainians, big black smoke. And I was with Miss Kim, who runs Wildberries. It's impacting. And that's what the Ukrainians realize that they need to do, which is bring the Russian population into the war, make it inconvenient for them. And it is. Prices are high, unemployment's increasing, salaries are low, there are more and more layoffs, the infrastructure constrictions, whether it's Telegram or WhatsApp or their cell phones. I can stand in a place in Moscow. I look at my Google Maps or my Yandex Maps. It'll have me 30 kilometers away, and that is incredibly stressful for Russians. But having said all of that, the Russian political system isn't that elastic, in that the Russian people will be forced to accept a lot more uncomfortableness, a lot more unpleasantness than would than would the Ukrainians. And so that's President Zelensky. They still have a lot of work to do in advance of the September elections coming up in Russia, to truly make it so that the Kremlin can't ignore their own people. And thus far, they can pretty much ignore the increasing levels of discontent.
John Kavulich, political commentator there from New York, thank you so much for your time and your analysis.
Thank you, sir.